Good afternoon, everybody. Delegates to the 77th UE National Convention, guests, officers, observers. My name is Brother Townsend. I'm honored to be able to talk to you today. I just had a few words that I wanted to say to all of you by way of introduction. Some of you who would remember me as having been the political director of the UE for many years. But I actually have a much longer career in the labor movement, or time in the labor movement, than that. I began as a rank and file worker and organizer 42 years ago in an organizing drive where I helped to organize what became a local union of the Amalgamated Transit Union in Florida, a local that's still there today. And I went through different jobs like all of you, different changes and twists and turns. And I eventually became a UE member and joined UE in 1988 as a field organizer, and I became an international representative, and then from that became the Washington representative, we used to call it. And that meant that I was UE's person in Washington, D.C., keeping track of things, looking over the mess, and coming back to the members and working with everyone to mobilize and not just know what was going on, to hopefully be able to impact what was going on. So when your officers asked me to speak to the convention, I was honored. I was able to attend your last convention. I wish I was there in person with you, or at least all of us were there in person, because of these extraordinary conditions forced on us by the virus. We're doing the best that we can do to communicate and keep the wheel turning. So anyway, I'm glad to do this address or this short commentary, and I'll look forward to seeing you all at the next UE convention in person as a guest. So I have a lot of things to say. When the officers asked me to talk, my mind began to race after having had 42 years now in the labor movement between ATU and UE. I guess I should have said I returned to ATU 8 years ago to help them establish a new organizing department, a campaign department, and a bargaining department, which by and large we've succeeded in doing. And it's been a whirlwind. It's quite an experience to come back to a union that you haven't been in for 35 years. But that's the two ends of my career: the ATU in the beginning, UE for 25 years in the middle, and then ATU currently today. So when I was thinking about all the things that I wanted to say, I thought, there's been a talk that I've given a couple of times that's been pretty well received about, 42 years, that's a long time to be in the labor movement. What did you learn? What did you absorb? What lessons did you learn? What do's and don'ts did you come across? And I put together what I'm going to do here in brief is a version of things that I've learned in those 42 years. And I want to start, I'm going to intermingle it with the reference to several books. Any of you that remember me will remember me as being the guy that was always on the drumbeat to read and study and read some more and distribute the books and the literature of the union so that people could truly absorb the meaning of our union and the relevance of our union, the necessity of our union, and the hopefulness of our union message. And I would say that the first thing that I've learned in my 42 years is from William Z. Foster. Any of you who have ever seen this book, American Trade Unionism by William Z. Foster, he was the architect of the first industrial organizing drive, an industry-wide drive in the meatpacking industry. He went on to lead the great steel struggle, and all of the work that he plowed into the labor movement is really what provided the foundation for the eventual growth of unions like UE and the growth of the Congress of Industrial Organizations. But Foster taught me that no organizing effort is ever wasted. It's never wasted. Even when you fail, even when you come up short, organizing efforts out with the unorganized workers are absolutely necessary, and none of it is ever wasted. Another thing that I learned from Foster was the class struggle is real. We have classes. We have the ruling class, we have the working class. We're all obviously in the working class, and this is not going to go away. This is a reality. We can't wish it away. It can't be turned on or off with a switch. The question we have for us is, will workers participate in the class struggle and defend and advance their own class interests. Will they? Well, as unionists, as UE members that all you are, as I am as a unionist and an aggressive unionist, of course, we are going to participate in that class struggle. Everything we do is within that context. Another thing that I learned, probably not from Foster, but from the first boss I had when I was a young man and went to work, was that the boss, or that the workplace today in the United States, the workplace, is a dictatorship. Anybody that wants to give you a story, some fairy tale of how this is a participatory workplace, you're an associate, that's baloney. The workplace is a dictatorship. And the best that we can hope for with even a good union is to put a brake on that dictatorship. We don't run things yet, but we can develop a union that at least makes it habitable and tolerable for us to work and live in that workplace. Another thing that I learned along the way, something else, Them and Us. All of you are familiar with Them and Us, the UE book, or you should be familiar with Them and Us. The history written by James Matlis in the 70s to detail the heroic, amazing history of the foundation of the United Electrical Workers Union. This Them and Us conflict is inevitable. It goes hand in hand with the workplace dictatorship. The boss and his whole interest is predatory. It's premised on exploiting us, getting more out of us than what we get out of it. And it's something that reminds us, and UE has always been good to tell the members the truth about this, the interests of the employers and the interest of the bosses and the interest of the workers, us and the working class, are diametrically opposed. They can't be reconciled. We are on opposite sides of a fight. Something else, it's actually a slogan that Bernie Sanders, I tease him that he stole it from me, which I don't know if it's true or not, but it's to remind people that the system is corrupt and rigged against the people at every turn. The system that we're forced to live in and grow up in, it's corrupt and it is rigged against the people at every turn. There's no reason to deny it that. That's why we need unions. That's why we need, militant, aggressive unions to advocate on our behalf, because this is sadly the reality. And it's a question that working people must resist. It's not a choice anymore. All of you, when you go back to your workplaces, you do this every day. You go to your coworkers and your fellow union members or the unorganized workers in your workplace, and you say, you've got to get on board here. You've got to help push. We're pushing back against this corruption and against this rigged system. It's a fact. And that union leaders must lead the resistance. There's no way around that. Your slogan for your convention, I'm just looking to make sure I get it right here. The leadership slogan of leadership having to rise to the occasion in your convention this year couldn't be more apropos. That the role of the leadership is the key role. Nothing happens without us. The members instinctively follow. It's just the nature of it. That without you in the workplace, there will not be a union. There will not be a fight back against these conditions. It's just a fact. Something else when it comes to the quality of your union and the consist of your union, taught to me by one of the UE old-timers. You don't need to join the union to get something that the boss is going to give you anyway. Think about that. You don't need a union to get what the boss was going to give you anyway. What we are talking about is winning and achieving things that we couldn't get or would never have without a union. So that raises the bar in terms of what our expectation is for what the union will do, what kind of a union we will have. And you mold that, and you are responsible for that. And this leads to another piece of wisdom that I picked up from William Z. Foster and others along the way, which is motivated leaders move the membership. This is what we refer to as the militant minority. There's always a small group of us. All of you need all the help you can get. I know I sure can. You always need help. You need extra people to get involved in the union and all this, and we never seem to get enough. Well, don't panic. That militant minority that you're in has done all these miraculous things that have gotten us this far. It's just the fact of life. The militant minority pushes it, and you should be proud to be part of it. It's also, I think, that UE has never been confused about this. Another piece of wisdom that I picked up along the way was that an educated and mobilized membership is our strength. That's the way it is. The membership is the rock solid foundation of everything we do. If you try to get around that, you try to ignore that, You try to wish that away, you're not going anywhere. The membership must be behind you. It will lead, or it will follow if you lead. And I also just want to wind up by sharing a few other pieces here, that business unionism, as we have it in the United States, it's part of an old order that's crumbling. I think everybody would look at all the developments in our country, political developments in the last few years, and say that something is crumbling here. The old order is discredited. The old order of government, the old order of the two-party system, the old order of the corporate order, the hierarchy, just people are willing now to question on a mass basis that. And that as this old order crumbles, the failed union methodologies of business unionism are crumbling with it. It's not a shock that we see people who are also reluctant to offer their loyalty to some of these unions under these conditions, when these unions still try to deny these basic truths. Another one, having been your political director for many years, knowing the difference between political action and playing politics. UE has always been known for its very, very militant and very principled political action, not playing politics. It's also maybe the last couple of things that I've learned. And many of these things you guys have absorbed. Your head may be nodding, maybe not. But the Democratic Party, it's not designed to support workers. It's not designed. It's not for that purpose. Individual Democratic politicians might, but the party as a whole is not organized to deliver results for working people. I think that's certainly not the Republican Party. They would assassinate every one of us if they had the druthers, as we've seen in recent years. But it's also, maybe I'll wind up by saying, that all of us as workers, as leaders in our unions, myself now as the organizing director for ATU, and a remaining supporter and friend of UE, all of us have to continue to read and discuss and come back and try again. Keep reading. Labor's Untold Story. Your union, UE, prints this. If you don't have it, you better get it. I think I might hold the record for the greatest number of sales ever in modern times for that, because it is a valuable book. I was first introduced to this book by a old-timer when I was an ATU member as a kid. He came out and gave it to me when we were in our organizing drive. I had never heard of UE at that time, 1980, 1981. It certainly is a book that all of you and many in your locals should read. Also, don't forget your pamphlet that has come out in the last year, Them and Us Unionism. Make sure you have this. Make sure you read it. Make sure you discuss with your fellow members in your local these things. I mean, UE occupies, and I want to say this in the strongest terms, a key role in the entire labor movement. It's consciously part of a labor movement and occupies a key corner, that it holds high the banner for high ethics, high democratic practices, militant and aggressive tactics on the new organizing front, on the political action front, and on the bargaining front. And while there are days of the week when the union cannot achieve all of those things and maybe fall short, the goal is still, and again and again and again, the leadership and the activists in UE come back to try to do not just the trade union job, but to do a better trade union job. So in any event, again, I wished I was there with everyone like you wish you were there in Pittsburgh to do this in person. I apologize for some of the improvised imperfections of doing it this way, but my heart is with UE and always will be, as anyone has spent as many years there as I did. I'll be as close as the phone for anything that I can do to assist, small or not so small. And I wish everyone well when you return to your locals and you've had a good and productive convention, and you look at the next few months and weeks and years to deal with your employers and deal with the politicians that are the same thing in some cases. So anyway, thanks again. Thanks again for having me. My best to all the delegates, officers, and observers and staff of UE at your 77th convention. Thanks very much.